This video is about placing images into your document, and I might have to split this up over two videos. But what I've done is I've just downloaded an image from Unsplash, and one of the first things I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go ahead and put it in the same folder as my project, right? Just for safety's sake, right? That way I'm keeping everything together, because before I alluded to that images aren't actually embedded, they're just linked to. So how do we place an image into InDesign? Well, we go to File, Place, where you see that it's Command D on the keyboard. And so if I hit File, Place, that will bring up a dialog box for you to navigate to your image. And by default, it will open up your project folder. And so that's nice, like where this file is. That's why it's one more handy reason for doing that. So now when I have the image, you'll notice it's attached to my cursor. And this gives me a couple of options of what I can do with it. I could click once, and now this image is really big, so it winds up getting way too big. So I'm going to hit Command Z and go back to here. Probably far better, what you're going to want to do is actually just click and drag, and then we can go ahead and just go ahead and place that. There's a third thing you can do that if you actually already had an item out. So let's say I had a ellipse, right? I have this circle and I want to place an image in there. I'm going to go back and place an image. And because I had it selected, it automatically goes in there. If I didn't have it selected and I went back to the dialog box, I just hit Command Z to get out of that. I could click on it and place it in that item. So there's different ways there. And I'll talk about why this goes in ellipses in a second. But let me go ahead and just remove this and just look at what we did here. So now let's say I wanted that image slightly smaller. And I just take my black arrow and I go down to the corner. Well, notice what happens. It actually gets cropped. And what you have to know is that in InDesign, it really works on frames. Everything is in a frame. Images, text, you'll have these frames around them. And with images, it works such that, right, that we do this, it moves independently. If we wanted to move so let's say I wanted to make this smaller. You notice right here, I have this right there. I can move this thing around in the frame. Whoops, right, I need to make sure I'm taking that. Another thing I could do is actually just double click on it. And then you notice I see the edges of the image. And now if I make, right, I want to hold Shift to constrain it, I can make that image smaller. A third way that I could do, I can make everything move together, is to actually hold down Option and Shift, right? And now the image is moving with me. Lastly, if I don't want to use the keyboard, even though I'm going to have to hit Shift anyhow, you can go to the free transform tool. And obviously I'm going to hold Shift to maintain the aspect ratio, and it goes down that way. So this is the little complicated of how you manage with images. And so another thing you can do, one more thing you can do, let's say I wanted the frame and I know I want the frame to be this way. And now I want to get this image bigger, I want to art direct it a little bit. Well, first thing I would do is actually control click right on the image, and you'll see that you get this right here, there's this fitting menu. And so these will help you fill the frame or change the frame to the content. So you see things like fit the frame to the content, right? So that goes right to how it was originally. We can go in and say fit the content to the frame. Now we don't want that one because it changes the aspect ratio, so that's no good. Let's go to fitting, fill frame proportionally. Right? I think that's going to be your best bet right there, right? One of those proportional ones. And then we can art direct it a little up and down as we want it. So say that was a banner or something that we were putting together. So that's most of what you need to know about images, manipulating them. The last thing you need to know is, again, I keep talking about it being links. So where does that live? If you look over here in your right-hand column, you have a links. And here you could see the image. So if you ever see a little exclamation point, it means it doesn't know where the image is. And what you have to do then is go in and relink the image. Now, technically, InDesign embeds like a very small version of your image just as a thumbnail when you save. But if the image becomes unlinked because you move it somewhere, then it'll still show the image. I can actually exemplify that probably if I just grab this image, right, and take that out of there and go back to link. See now, oh, it's not an exclamation point, it's a little question mark, whatever. It's just some symbol here, right? And so if I wanted to relink that, I'd have to go to relink and find the image to relink. I could, if the image, so let's move this image back in here, right? And now it knows where it is. If I wanted to, I could embed the image in the file, but it's not usually that practical because then it'll make your file pretty big. But you can do it by going to, where is it? It's embed link, right? So I'm not gonna, you're not gonna want to do that. Let's put it that way. So that's basically everything you need to know about images. Go ahead and play with images. One quick thing, sorry. All right, again, I showed you that ellipse tool, right? So you don't have to have an image be in just a square. Just like I showed before, right? I can go ahead and put this in here, right? I'll go ahead and say, oops, how do I not get that? Okay, fitting, right? Fit content proportionally. Let's actually fit frame proportionately, right? And then I can always go in here, hold shift to make this bigger, right? So I have to art direct it in here. It doesn't have to be a square is the point. I could even, there's just a pen tool just like in Illustrator, right? So I want to make any shape and I go ahead and place that image, right? And it will go in there, right? So again, sky's the limit here. So now you can actually go ahead and get yourself an image and make sure you understand resizing, manipulating, changing the size, filling different frames in InDesign.